Hello everybody and welcome to yet another video. Thank you so much for being here. For today, I have a what I realistically read in a week video, and I put realistic in like air quotes because this is realistic for me and for what I choose to prioritize in my free time, but just keep in mind that this might not be realistic for you depending on what you do for work and how much free time do you have and what other obligations you have. Also, I do have this YouTube channel that is centered mainly on books and on reading. So when I'm picking a book or when I'm choosing to read a specific thing, I'm also thinking like, oh, this might be a fun idea for a video, or oh, I should do this video concept, and to do it, I have to read this specific book and stuff like that. Also, I do have like goals. They're not like really, I should read 2000 pages in this amount of time. Like, that's just not realistic for me. But I do have goals on, oh, maybe by the end of the weekend, I should have read these many chapters from this book, or I should be finishing these two books in the upcoming 2 weeks, or stuff like that. So again, this video is meant for entertainment purposes only. Don't put pressure on yourself if you don't manage to read in a specific day or week or month or whatever it might be. You are still a reader. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let me introduce the books that I will be reading throughout this week, because currently I am in the middle of 3 books, and that is a bit excessive. I'm not gonna lie, but it's just how things are at the moment, and I thought it's a fun idea to film this video while I will be reading these books throughout the week. So let me actually tell you a bit about each of these books and why I'm reading them at this specific moment. So earlier this month, I did start a new series by Kingfisher called The Saint of Steel. And the first book in that series is Paladin's Grace. I read that one and I just fell in love with that book. It was so gorgeously written. Obviously, I trust Kingfisher with my life. Like, I know what she's capable of, and I just love her writing style and how she just composes and crafts her stories. They are all kind of fairy tale retellings, but they all have so many spins on the concept of fairy tales and what you would typically expect from a fairy tale retelling. She just like turns everything on its head and then she does it again, and you're just staring at the wall after you finish a T. Kingfisher book. I just love her writing so much. And because I finished Paladin's Grace, I was like, this was so much fun. I love this book. I have to continue with the rest of the books in this series. There are 4 in total. Paladin's Grace, as I said, is the first one, and then we have Paladin's Strength, which I am currently in the middle of, Paladin's Hope, and Paladin's Faith. I am currently reading, as I said, Paladin's Strength, and my bookmark is making a lot of noise. Hopefully it's not distracting. But this second book in the series is furthering the overarching plot of the main antagonist of the story, because in the first book we have like a very contained plot that is just in that book, but we also are introduced to this like overarching massive plot that I think is going to continue in the third and fourth book as well. But basically, we are trying to find the culprit for the decapitations that are happening throughout the land of this fantasy world. It's pretty weird. They don't know who's causing these sudden chain of murders, these decapitations. And in the first book, we get a nugget as to why that might happen, but we don't exactly know for sure what's going on. And in this second book, one of our paladins, pictured right here on the cover, his name is Istvan. He is basically going from town to town to see if the people from these towns have heard about these murders, if it happened close to their land and stuff like that, so that he can track this murderer who's causing all of this. And on his quest to basically interview and question these villagers, he is encountering Clara, and she is part of a convent of nuns who were kidnapped by someone. We don't know exactly who at the beginning of the story. They are teaming up so that Clara can track her sisters to save them. Istvan from the first book, he's one of those characters that are making just like unhinged jokes, and Clara seems to be very responsive to his sense of humor. So I really, really like how the relationship between the two of them is developing so far in the book. I am not that far into it. I only read like 15 chapters or so, but we're gonna talk more about that once I tell you what I read yesterday. Today's Tuesday, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that in this video. But next, the other book that I started yesterday is Danielle Evans's Before You Suffocate Your Own Full Self. This was on my July TBR list, and because this is a collection of short stories, I decided to start this one and just like read from it throughout the month. For me personally, I just noticed that I don't tend to do well with short story collections or like poetry collections when I'm reading the stories or the poetry in them just back to back to back as you would do in a regular novel. And I think that is because they're not truly meant to be read together. They're just meant to give you like a taste of that author's writing style in a way. So I'm really trying to take my time with this book and to read from it sparsely throughout the month. Maybe I can finish it, maybe not, we'll see. And then the other book that I started reading yesterday is The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This is this author's newest release, and this is also my first Joe Abercrombie book. I was very excited to start reading Joe Abercrombie this year because someone on Threads convinced me that I should be reading Joe Abercrombie's books, and I wanted to start with his first trilogy. I think it's called The First Law or something like that, but I just couldn't wait. And when I saw that this is his newest release and it seems to be like a standalone, I don't know yet if he's writing in that sort of like the same universe as Brandon Sanderson does with Cosmere, or if they're all kind of like separated. But yeah, I decided to pick this one up and to give it a go because I've seen this book everywhere on social media and I was very curious to see what all the fuss is about. So I decided to pick this one up yesterday on my lunch break. I did not know anything about this book prior to actually starting reading it. I did not read the synopsis or anything online because I truly wanted to have like that first experience with this author and to be surprised by this book as much as possible. So we are following this ragtag group of characters as they are getting assembled to basically help the princess Alexia. I don't remember her full title. I think it was on one of the first pages. Yeah, it's right here. Princess Alexia Pyrogenitas, long lost daughter of the Empress Irene and rightful heir to the serpent throne of Troy. So this group of just people and creatures and priests and stuff like that is assembled to transport Princess Alexia. See, this is the problem. I always forget. She goes by Alex in the book, so I will be referring to her as Alex from now on. But they have to accompany Alexis back to Troy, where she is supposed to take her throne back. Obviously, it cannot be this simple, and we have this whole expose on how one of Alex's aunts, I think she came up with this idea to combine the soul of mortals with the soul of monsters, and she created these like devils, they call them. So they're basically attacked on their way there by these devils, and they have to come up with ways to combat them. And I stopped reading from this book last night because I was very, very tired, and I stopped in a very pivotal moment in which they were just getting attacked and some characters died and a lot of things were happening. So I'm really, really looking forward to continue reading from this book today because I'm very curious to see what's happening next. One thing that I want to mention, the writing style, like it's simplistic for the most part, but we also have these very many jokes that are just thrown everywhere by all of the characters. And I do struggle with that in the sense that I only read like 80 something pages. I will tell you exactly how many in a second, but I didn't finish the first part of this book just yet. And there were a lot of repeated jokes that were happening from one of the characters that I'm just like, oh my God, not again. Like, I got it the first time, I got it the second time, but when you're doing the same joke like over and over again, it tends to be a bit polarizing and just not as fun anymore, I think. But yeah, we'll see how my opinions evolve or change after I make a bigger progress with this book. So let me tell you what I managed to read yesterday from this book, because I have written everything on my notes. So before you suffocate your own full self, I managed to read the first short story in this book, and that is 26 pages from this one. Then from Paladin's Strength, I read from chapter 11 to chapter 15, so that would mean 34 pages. And then from The Devils, I read the first 84 pages. So that brings us to a total of 144 pages read yesterday on Monday. Throughout this video, I will pop in from time to time to let you know how many pages I read in the day prior, but also to update you on any thoughts and opinions on the books that I read. So yeah, let's roll the montage. You guys, it is Wednesday. Today, is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday today. And it is so incredibly humid and hot. Like, I had to turn off my AC to film this, but I'm literally drenching in sweat right now. So let me tell you about the progress that I made yesterday with my reading. Actually, before that, I do have a bit of a story time that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with this video. Well, I guess it kind of does because it impacted how much I read yesterday. So Monday evening after work, I just decided all of a sudden that I want to repair this crack in my ceiling that I've had for probably 2 or 3 years at this point. But this Monday, I have decided, like, no, I cannot stand this anymore. I have to fix this. Went to the hardware store to buy like a spatula and some of that like putty that you like put on the wall to make it smooth. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, what I didn't realize, that putty is beige and my walls are white. And I was like, you know what, it's fine. This has to dry up overnight and then tomorrow I'll just like paint over it. What I didn't foresee is that I didn't have any painting brushes in my house. I knew I had an old one. I guess I threw it away. So yesterday evening after work, I went again to the hardware store. I bought a painting brush. I come back home and guess what I realize? I don't have the correct paint for my walls. So long story short, my ceiling is not painted yet. It looks atrocious. I don't think you can see it in this shot right here. No, you can't. Okay. It looks atrocious. And also I had to repair some of these areas like around the mirrors that I have on my wall. So if you can see any of that in the upcoming footage, no, you don't. It's fine. It's fine. I'll take care of it. I will just not go a third time at the hardware store this week. So yeah, that's that. Now, in terms of the actual reading that I did yesterday. So I read 35 pages from Paladin's Strength. I am currently now on chapter 19, page 153. Not a lot of things happened so far. They're just like on the road and they got attacked at some point. Stuff happened, but not much else. So I do have to continue reading, obviously, to see what's happening next. And then I made quite good progress, I would say, for The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. And I do have some thoughts so far. So from The Devils, I read another 72 pages yesterday, and I am currently on chapter, I guess this doesn't have actual chapter numbers. Yeah, no, it doesn't. So anyway, I am now currently on page 156. I am kind of like in the middle of part 2-ish. So I do have some opinions. First of all, the writing style is so polarizing. I guess we have a lot of jokes that are getting old pretty fast and they are repeated quite a few times and it just gets to a point where it becomes annoying. For example, we have this character. He is a magician. His name is Baltasar Shamivandraxi or something. And every single time a new character is just coming across this group and they're like, oh, what are you, a sorcerer? And he's like, how dare you? I am a magician. I am Baltasar Shamivandraxi and I am the third best magician in Europe if you're not considering this person a magician, but if you don't, then I'm the second best, whatever he says. He has this monologue every single time he encounters a new character. And it was funny the first time. It was like a bit funny the second time, but when you're doing that over and over again, I just don't know if it has the same impact, or at least it didn't for me personally. I was actually editing one of my videos this morning, and what I discovered is that I do say a lot of, in my opinion and personally, so I should really stop saying that this many times because it's not necessary. But anyway, other than the magician, I really like the elf and the vampire. I think they are very interesting characters. The werewolf is a bit stereotypical. Yeah, I would say as of the moment, as of right now, as of page 150, whatever the number of the pages, I like the elf a lot. I think Sunny is a very interesting and unique character. She can basically make herself invisible just by like holding her breath. And because of that, she's able to do very cool things. Also, from how this is written so far, I do believe that we have a lot of interest for our main character, Alex, or Alexis, Alexia, Princess, whatever her name is. I do hope to continue reading from this in the train this evening, and I will see you tomorrow with a new reading update. So, see you in a bit. Hello everybody, today is Thursday. On that train ride, I did manage to read actually quite a bit from The Devils, even though I don't really feel like I read that much, if that makes sense. But before my train ride, on my lunch break, I did read 47 pages of Paladin's Strength from chapter 19 to chapter 24. Right now with this book, I am just like a teeny tiny bit worried on the pacing of it all. It just feels much slower than the first book. And also, there are certain parts of the action, let's say, that I don't really see the importance of. I don't know if this is going to be like my favorite from the series, but nonetheless, I'm having a moderately good time with Isvan and Clara on their journey to uncover this massive murder mystery that's going on in their part of the world, let's say. And then, in terms of my update from The Devils, I did read 73 pages yesterday, so that brings us to a total of 120 pages read yesterday. I just don't know if this is my thing. I do see what Joe Abercrombie is trying to do. It's just not really working for me personally. There are a lot of things that are repeated, and after a while, they just feel redundant. Also, something very strange that doesn't happen with me often, but when it does, it's just like so in my face. I can't really picture where the action takes place. Like, I know currently we are on a ship, but for some reason, I just can't picture their surroundings almost. And I do believe because the action is always turned up to 100, and every single page, like every single time something dramatic is happening, like they're getting attacked or they're in a battle with these monsters or like whatever, and you don't really have time to catch your breath. And because of that, because it's so just like jam packed with action, I don't really see what's happening around them, their surroundings, where they are. And also, I do think that the interpersonal relationships between the characters are not as developed as they could have been. Obviously, I'm still in the first part of the book, like I'm 42 or 43%, something like that. And I do wonder if we will spend the entirety of the book, the whole 500 and however many pages this book is, just to have this like continuous action, because it just doesn't feel sustainable. Like, okay, we have this crazy situation and then we have this other crazy situation, but you can't maintain that up to 100. You have to slow down to allow these characters time to become relatable to you as a reader, I feel like. And as of right now, that's just not happening. But yeah, these were my current thoughts. This is how my reading is going. So far, I didn't have a day in which I just didn't feel like reading at all, because sometimes that also happens, and hopefully I don't jinx myself because I do want to finish other books this month as well. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, and I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow with a new reading update. Hello, everybody. It is Friday today, finally. And if you can hear a beeping sound, there's just like some construction going on the road. I've tried to close all the windows, but you might still hear something. So that's that. When it comes to my little reading update from yesterday, from Thursday, I did manage to read 3 chapters of Paladin's Strength, and that would be 34 pages. We are slowly moving in a certain direction, and it seems like we are closer to achieving our goal and to figure out what happened with Clara's non sisters. I do really look forward to continue reading this book because I do have some theories as to what's happening, but I guess I'm going to see that when I get there. Now, for my reading update for The Devils, yesterday I read 94 pages from this book. While it is true that certain character quirks have been addressed, and now we kind of have an explanation as to why, for example, Balthasar is introducing himself every single time the way that he is Balthasar Shamivan Draxi, da 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 da. And I do appreciate that those things are addressed. The overall tone of the book is very satirical, but to a point where it just feels like a parody, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. My only problem is that this tone is always turned up to 100, and I just wished to have more variety, I guess. Yeah, those would be my current reading updates. I'm looking forward to read more, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Hello everybody. Today is Saturday. I woke up at 6:30 and outside it was windy and not as hot, and I decided to remove a fence from our flower garden that I wanted to remove since like a couple of months now. I just never was in the mood to do that, and today I finally managed to remove it entirely, and I'm very happy. I still have to just like clean the area and stuff like that, but I wanted to take a breather because I am pretty much out of breath from doing that, and I wanted to update you on my reading progress for yesterday. Yesterday, other than the fact that it was like really hectic at work, I just got so mad with the Devils, and I almost didn't want to finish it because I was probably like 70-ish%, and there were just things that were happening and it was kind of predictable. I didn't really look forward to finishing that book just because I didn't care at that point, is what I'm trying to say, which I know sounds really, really bad, but it's just how things are. Yesterday, I took the executive decision to finish that book by all means. And even though I finished reading it at like 11 something in the evening, I did finish it. So yesterday I did read 238 pages and I was done with The Devils. I was so happy and free when I finished it, not because I liked it, but because it was over. Stream Freedom by Kesha on Apple Music. That book was just not for me. And a reason for that, I think it's also because I had so high expectations from Joe Abercrombie because everyone was raving about him and his fantasy books, his fantasy settings, and his character development. And I was really excited for that. But this book, unfortunately, didn't have any of that, in my opinion. Like, it was predictable, it was boring, the jokes were very infantile and or juvenile. I guess they mean the same thing. I was very excited to get into Joe Abercrombie's most popular trilogy, I think is The First Law, but after the experience with this book, I just don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to read that trilogy. Let me know in the comments down below if you read the First Law trilogy, if it is worth it or not. And I know it's very subjective. If you enjoyed The Devils, I'm happy for you. It was just not my thing. Okay, enough rambling. For today, I do really want to make a dent into Paladin's strength because I read like a few chapters from this book, as you saw throughout the week, but I am roughly at the 50-ish% mark, and I do want to read a good chunk of that today. And I will see you tomorrow with a new reading update. Hello, everybody. It is finally Sunday today, and I'm very happy to report that yesterday, on Saturday, I did finish Paladin's Strength. So I read from chapter 25 up until chapter 51, which was the last chapter, and in total I read 228 pages from that book. And I think I said in one of the previous clips from this video that the action seemed to move very slowly in the beginning of the book, but obviously I do trust T. Kingfisher so much as an author. I do trust her craft and her vision, and no surprise there, she didn't disappoint with this book. I still think the first one, I liked it a teeny tiny bit better than the second one, but nonetheless, this was so good. It is true that the first half of the book is very slow, but that is because we have to build the relationship between these two main characters, Istvan and Clara. And then in the second half of the book, some just like weird and crazy and unhinged things happen in true T. Kingfisher fashion. And I am so happy that we spent some time with these characters in the first part of the book so that we understand their motivations and their actions in the second part of the book. And yeah, this is, I think, a series that will become my favorite. And then, other than Paladin's Strength, I also start a new book yesterday called The Guest by Emma Cline. This is one of the books that my TBR jar chose for the month of July, and I would want to read it this month. From what I read yesterday, I read 36 pages, which is just like the first chapter. From what I read yesterday, yes, the writing is good, but our main character from that book is one of those unlikable characters, and I just don't know if I'm in the mood for that, to be completely honest. But yeah, I will try to read more chapters in the upcoming days to see what exactly are my feelings on The Guest by Emma Cline. With that being said, I will go eat now because I am very hungry. I will see you tomorrow with the last reading update for this vlog. Hello everybody, today is Monday, and yesterday on Sunday I did start Paladin's Hope, and I was very excited to finally get to hear Piper's story. Obviously there's more to it, but just having Piper as one of the two main characters is absolutely unbelievable to me because I liked this character so much. And so far, the book is very promising. I did read 120 pages. I am currently on chapter 15. The book so far is probably like the most rapidly evolving and unhinged from this series, and that's saying a lot because some pretty crazy things happened in Paladin's Grace and Paladin's Strength. But let me tell you what's happening so far in this book, because at the end of Paladin's Strength, the main murder mystery is resolved. They uncover who was responsible for those decapitations, and Istvan and Clara and Sigrid and all of the other nuns are pretty much helping him putting a stop to those murders. And I was really intrigued to hear where the next book will take us, because obviously that plot point seemed to be resolved. And guess what? At the beginning of Paladin's Hope, there is a new set of murders, but thankfully they don't have anything in common with the old ones, so we don't have a recurring villain from what I can tell. But this third book seems to have ties to some other books that do exist in this overarching universe that the Kingfisher created. I think this third book, even though I did not read any of the other series from the Kingfisher in this world, she has a book called The Clockwork Boys, and that book is part of a duology called The Clocktar War or something like that. And so far this book seems to have ties with the Clockwork Boys. This is kind of like my feeling after reading some of the world building from Paladin's Hope. And Piper, because I guess in modern terms he would be considered a mortician, he obviously has to investigate these bodies, and he is discovering the culprit for their death. And in this book we learn that Piper has a very peculiar talent that might come in very handy for the plot of this book and potentially for the plot of the next book as well. So because of Piper's quote-unquote talent, Galen decides to take him and Agnol in this investigation, and they go in an adjacent town, I believe, to just ask people if they've heard about these murders or if some of these murders happened in their part of the kingdom or world, I guess. And they have arrived at this very peculiar house, and they may or may not be trapped in a torture chamber or in multiple of them. And that's pretty much where I stopped reading last night, because it was pretty late. I had a lot of fun filming this video this week, so please let me know in the comments down below if you enjoy this type of video. I would like to make it a recurring thing here on the channel, so definitely do let me know if you want to see more of this type of content. Now, I did add up the numbers, and in this week I read a total of 1,121 pages, which would roughly average to about 160 pages a day, which is definitely not what's happening usually. I feel like usually I'm averaging more towards 100 pages a day than towards 160. I think that's a bit much, but it's also because like I had a massive book to read, which was the Joe Abercrombie one, and I really did want to finish that book this week because as you know from this video, I didn't really enjoy it. And with the T. Kingfisher books, I think I just rushed through them because I enjoyed them so much and I wanted to see what's happening with these characters because I was just like so excited for them. There are a lot of contributing factors to how much I read, how fast I read, if I have something else to do in that day other than work and just like YouTube things. So thank you all again so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next video soon here on the channel. Bye everyone.